Welcome to the Sheridan Report, brought to you by MyBookie.Ag on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. Make sure you go to thegruelytruth.net, click on the MyBookie.Ag banner at the top of the page for up to a $1,000 cashback bonus on 50% of whatever you put in on your first deposit. I am your co-host for the Sheridan Report, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing great, and I'll tell you what, we're going to hop right into this baseball stuff. I'll tell you why, because we got to there's a couple of these games starting in the next 8 minutes or so, and I want to give the listeners a chance to put it in if that's what they choose to do.
All right, go ahead, Bobby.
Okay, well, in the MLB today, I'm going to go quickly on this. I really like, our 3-team parlay is if you've been listening, we have a 3-team parlay daily, and it'll be 3 favorites that it kind of covers our action on the other end. And it's the Cubs, which is a 5:05 start, the Rockies, a 3:10 start, and the Reds, 11:10 start. Now, these are all Pacific time. So the Cubs, Rockies, and Reds. And I say that real quickly because the Reds start at 11:10. It's now 11:02. So you've got 8 minutes.
They'll probably be in a rain delay if they get to play today.
Oh, is it raining there, Mike? Oh, darn, I did not know that. Okay,
yes,
well,
it is.
Okay, well, you probably got more time than that then.
My question is this. If you've got a 3-team parlay and one of them rains out, does it just turn into a 2-team or does it completely wipe it out?
That's right. It reduces to a 2-teamer.
Okay.
So you can still put it in, and if it wipes out one, you've got the 2-teamer. But they should get it in. So with a daytime start like that, I would doubt it would rain all day, right? There'd probably be some kind of a window to get that thing in.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. And then so there's our 3-team parlay, and it hit yesterday, Mike. We hit our 3-teamer with the Red Sox threw in homer late in that game. We hit the 3-teamer, and that was nice late surprise there. And then a straight play. We've already got the Mets, and this is why I talked about getting the report. It's very cheap, and the reason why I keep it cheap, I mentioned that yesterday, and you would have the Mets already. The Mets are winning, and they were a 10:05 start, and they were plus $1.04 when I bet it, and actually it went up a little bit, Mike. It could have got a little bit better price this morning, but that's the way it goes. I think it went up to plus 108 or something like that. And the Mets are already winning. That was one of the plays, and then we got another one coming up at 11:15, and that's the White Sox at plus $1.20. And then our top play is this evening. It's the Giants, a 5:40 Pacific time start. We went to Padres yesterday on our 3-teamer. We're hopping over to the Giants today, plus 115 at 5:40 with Derek Rodriguez on the mound. Rodriguez, as you may or may not know, is Ivan Rodriguez's son.
I did not know that.
Yeah, old Pudge, it's his son, and he came up last year and, had an outstanding second half of the season and was a breakthrough for their organization. They did not expect that, and here he is in the number 3 slot this year, starting the year. So, real happy for him. Something else you can do now. Let's say you've missed everything. And you've missed the White Sox. You already missed the Mets, the Reds. You've missed, and you're sitting here in the middle of the day. Well, then what you can do is you can take those other 2 that are still coming, the Cubs at 5:05 and the Rockies at 3:10. You can hook the Giants in there. You can have a nice solid 3-team where you can go top play with the other 2. Sometimes I'll mix and match. If there's a loser early in one of the formats, I'll mix and match some things, and that sometimes will come up with a nice winner for you. So there's your baseball, Mike. There's your card. Yesterday we split the 2 straight plays, but the top play was a winner. So theoretically, you should have more money on the top play. And then when the 3-teamer pops, that means it's a nice winner for baseball. Hopefully we can get it again today.
All right, Bobby. What do you got for the NBA?
All right, well, the NBA, and this is funny because, we talked about this yesterday again off the air for a quick second. I text or talk, I don't remember, but NBA, it's like, okay, let's just pass this next week and a half or whatever, and, I think there's 7 games left, and, can't entirely pass, and especially when you're invested into a season as long as you are, I know it's time to scale down, and you scale down, but there's 2 more plays today that I can't pass them just because I like them so much, and that was the case yesterday, and we wound up splitting, but the Lakers were the top play. So we did make money yesterday in the NBA, and the Lakers won like a sure thing. They were down in that game early by 14, I think, and the next thing you know, they're up 14. And if you know the Lakers, that's not often. So they won it easily, and we got another one I think will win easily, and that's tonight at 7 o'clock. That's the Grizzlies playing the Suns, and we've talked about the Suns. I think they're done in terms of having any ability to win.
Did they ever begin the season, Bobby?
Well, kind of no, but Mike, they found a really nice 3-week stretch not too long ago, not very long ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. They kind of capped off a nice 2 to 3 week stretch where they were being very, very competitive. In fact, they knocked off the Warriors and another couple of other playoff teams they knocked off, and they covered 4 or 5 in a row. But they've decided to sit some players out with injuries that are real or not real. I don't know. And so they're playing. Their 7 or 8 guys are down to like 3 of their top players, and Booker is scoring half the points every night, and you can't win a game like that. And the Grizzlies have been playing really solid basketball for an extended time now in terms of covering and being competitive, and they're going to go down there and win that game tonight. I don't think the Suns are going to win again the rest of the year. So I like the Grizzlies tonight. They're minus, was 1.5. It's up to -2. And so that's at Phoenix tonight at 7:10 Pacific. And then before that, we've got another game I labeled a top play, and that's the Pistons over the Blazers. And I'm going to finally get the Blazers, darn it. They've been really a bugaboo for me here recently, and that's a team I used to like to really bet, and I've been kind of against them this year. And the Pistons, I did have the Pistons over the Blazers when they were in Toronto. So that was a winner. The Pistons lost by 4 maybe or 3 in overtime. They were getting maybe 7 in that spot or 6, and they covered over Toronto or over the Blazers. And that's when the Blazers had all 3 of their guns. They had Nurkic and McCollum and Lillard. They all fired, and they won that game late. Pistons were looking to win that straight up and looked really good to win that straight up until the very end. And well, tonight's matchup, they're missing McCollum and Nurkic, and the Pistons, it swings back to Detroit now, and I think Detroit's going to be a little sour blowing that game. That was a nice win they were sitting on, and that game got blown late, and Lillard went crazy and hit all these crazy shots, and the Pistons actually played a solid game. And so we come back to Detroit now, and oftentimes these series, 2 games played in 3 weeks on each coast, oftentimes they'll split. And I think that's what we'll see here. The Pistons -5, and it went up to -6 this morning, I think are a good play. And I think they'll have a nice lead in the fourth quarter in this game. And if you look at Drummond and Blake Griffin, these 2 guys, when they're on the court together and they're doing their thing, are 2 of the top 10 players in the plus-minus category. So if they play a big game tonight, I believe that Pistons will be in good shape. Pistons are playing 8 players, solid 8 players in a rotation now for a long time, and that's why they're getting consistent efforts and can win and cover this ball game tonight. So I like the Pistons, I like the Grizzlies, both labeled as top plays in the NBA.
All right, Bobby, what about March Madness?
All right, well, March Madness, Mike, this is the premier time for many people. They love the March Madness, they love betting on these games, and hopefully you're betting on the underdogs just because percentage-wise the dogs are still carrying their weight. They were 2-2 yesterday in those games, and overall they're maybe 6 or 7 games over 500 in the tournament overall, and the unders are about 4 or 5 games over 500 overall. So the dog and the under has been the percentage play. Today we have 2 games that kind of match pros versus Joes type mentality, and the lines were starting to reflect that a little bit. You've got 2 games, one of them that I'm on, and I think you're with me, Mike. In fact, I know you're with me. Texas Tech is your pick to go to the Final Four, and Texas Tech is open 3.5 plus, Gonzaga open 3, Texas Tech plus 3, went to 4, and now it's at 4.5. And I've been doing some research on this morning, talking to some people, and this is not professional money. This is public money betting on the offense. What you have here is you have the most efficient offense, Gonzaga, versus the most efficient defense, Texas Tech. And And the fans love the number one seeds, and they love the offense. And so I think that's what we're seeing here. But with Texas Tech, most professional bettors for college basketball, they appreciate the defense and the ability to stop other teams. And I think Texas Tech, nobody can exhibit that more better than Texas Tech. I mean, they are the epitome of this, and they sure taught me this the other night against Michigan. And the way they play defense, and it's probably the best that we've got going right now in the tournament. And so Texas Tech plus the 4.5, so you're getting a better line, so you're getting good value. You got the defense, you've got the trend of the tournament has been a defensive tournament, an underdog tournament. So I think you've got a really nice play on Texas Tech today. Sure, Gonzaga's scary. They can score the basketball, and they are well coached, and they are the number one seed. But it's tough to cover a spread. They can win this game and not cover. They could easily lose this game straight up. So I think Texas Tech with the points would be and maybe 20% of your bet on the money line might be the way to go in that game. You have any thoughts you want to add to that, Mike?
I think you pretty much said it all. I think my only concern here is if Texas Tech can't rebound the basketball, because Gonzaga is long and they're a very good rebounding team. I think what it comes down to is Gonzaga has not played elite competition until the last game against Florida State, and Florida State had an injury. They had foul trouble. I just question if Gonzaga's played the kind of competition Texas Tech has in the last month or so. I love both coaches. I think this is going to be a close game. I put all my money on the plus 175 in Texas Tech, though.
All right, Mike. I love hearing that. It gives me a lot of confidence. I love that. I'm going to be there at the game. That's a 3:09 start, and I'll be there. And you know which side that I'll be on there. So that's good. And let's talk a little bit about the other game. I don't have that pulled up here. The other game is the night game. On the slate, it starts at 5. Help me out here. 5.
I think it's like 8:49 my time, which would be 5:49 your time, which is why I'm going to pass on going, because I wouldn't get home till like 2 in the morning.
Right. That's what. Yeah. Right. It'd be a really late night for you. Yeah. 8:49 your time, and that's Purdue and Virginia. And again, we got that defense. So I think, you got Purdue on tired legs. Can they go 15 for 31 again from 3, having to play overtime just a day and a half ago? That's the question for me. Virginia plays the great defense. Now Virginia has to lay the points, though. So that's the difference in this scenario. The defensive team has to win, and can they score enough to cover 4.5 points? They only score in the 50s or so. But are they capable, Mike, of scoring 70 or something here against Purdue or 80?
Oh, yeah. Virginia's done it occasionally this year. I mean, they've got DeAndre Hunter and Kyle Guy, who, if either one gets hot, can put some points up. I think they're going to have to score in the high 60s at least. You talk about Purdue having the legs. I know they played the running game with Tennessee, but Virginia played a physical matchup with Oregon, and they played the later of the 2 games. So I would worry more a little bit about Purdue just because of the overtime. I think this game is a toss-up, though. It's just going to come down to whether Carson Edwards can hit the 3-ball or not. I don't expect Ryan Klein can have a second performance like he did against Tennessee. If he does, they'll win the game. But you very rarely see a guy, especially a guy like Klein, who's a solid player, but not a guy that normally hits that many 3-point shots in a game or even takes that many. I think it's going to come down to whether Purdue can shoot the 3 or not. If they could shoot the 3 at 40% or above, I think they win the game. I think if they're held below 40%, I think they'd lose the game. This is a game where I actually did a parlay of Texas Tech and Purdue together, but that's just because I think they have a good enough a shot. It made it worth a small bet that would pay off large. I didn't bet this game because the question was with the 3-pointers. If I had to bet it, honestly, I'm cheering for Purdue, but if I had to bet it, I would bet Virginia, and I'd give the points.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning toward now. I'm starting to I did not put this game on the sheet. I wanted more time to think about it, and that's kind of my research as we've gone into this morning has kind of led me that way, and my thought process. And, talking to you, I feel good that Virginia may be able to score enough points to cover this. I am concerned about Purdue's ability to go 15 of 30 again against this team.
They're not going to go 15 of 30. But if they go 11 of 30, they can still win this game. Because the difference is this. Tennessee shot the 3-ball really well that night, too. So if they go 15 for 30, the rest of the tournament, they're going to win a national championship. But they're not going to.
Right.
So the question is, can Harms and the guys underneath there do the job to pick up the scoring and to rebound the basketball? Second chance points are huge here. So I think even if they're off a little, but if you throw a 10 for 30, but Harms and the other guys underneath are doing their job and rebounding the basketball, you can still get away and win the game here because Virginia is not a great offensive team. They do have a couple of guys capable of putting up a lot of points quickly. So I think you're looking at a game that's like 68-60. That's my guess.
Right.
I would really stay away from it. There's too many variables here that I think could swing this game violently one direction or the other.
Good analysis, Mike. That was most of my thought process, and that's why I didn't kind of include this. But I'm trying to maybe pull the trigger on Virginia. If you had to, put a gun in my head, I'm pretty sure I'd be on Virginia. And I know I'd be on Texas Tech. So that's the way I'm leaning, definitely, for the two NC2A games today.
All right, guys. We're going to have on this day, we're going to have a special guest, Steve Risley from the 1981 Indiana Hoosiers, right after this message from MyBookie.Ag. Hi, I'm Mike Goodpasser from the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and I'm here with just one simple message. If you're watching the games, it's time to start making money. The Grueling Truth has recently partnered with MyBookie.Ag, an industry-leading sportsbook website, who reminds you that where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And that's why the Grueling Truth urges you to check out MyBookie.Ag. In addition to the usual thousands of odds, money lines, proposition bets, and futures offered on MyBookie.Ag daily, they also have in-game live betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. So join now and MyBookie will give you up to a free $1,000 cash bonus on your first deposit. Just enter promo code TGT50, that's TGT50, to take advantage of this offer. You can also go to thegruelingtruth.net, click the banner at the top of the page for MyBookie.Ag, and also get the same benefit and the same $1,000 free cash bonus on your first deposit. So visit MyBookie.Ag, courtesy of the Grueling Truth, and enjoy winning today. MyBookie.Ag. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, guys, we're back on the Sheridan Report. I'm Mike Goodpasser of Bobby Sheridan on this day today. Bobby, you want to tell us what we got?
This is a special on this day, Mike and Steve. How are you, Steve? And
well, you didn't let me introduce him yet. Come on. Jeez.
Oh,
I'll tell you what, it's hard to get good.
I'm sorry, I heard him say hello.
You suck at caller, by the way, Bobby, but go ahead.
1981, the 43rd NCAA Men's Basketball Championship. Indiana beats North Carolina 63-50. The guy who scored the last point in that game is we're talking to right now.
Isaiah's here? All right, guys, from the 1981 Indiana Hoosiers, number 34, a man who dominated in a championship game and scored 5 points, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Having a great day. It's always fun when you get to talk basketball.
Really? No, you could come in and be a little bit more chipper than that. But let's go ahead, and we're going to talk about this a little bit differently than what we've had before. We did the interview with you a couple years ago now, believe it or not. And let's talk about this 1981 Indiana team because you guys started off, I believe, 7-5. You got beat by Kentucky. You lost to Notre Dame. You lost to North Carolina. Those were all kind of acceptable losses. Those were top 10 teams. You had a 2-point loss to Kentucky, a 4-point loss to Notre Dame, who were ranked 2nd and 9. You lost a fairly close game at Chapel Hill. But then you played the Rainbow Classic in Hawaii, and you lose to Clemson, and you lose to Texas Pan American. You want to talk to us a little bit about that time for that team?
Oh, we came out and we beat Rutgers the first game. We won that game. But what has happened, I've never really talked about this much. For some odd reason, on the flight out, a bunch of us got like food poisoning or something because we all were on the flight out throwing up profusely. I remember Eisenbarger and myself sitting there and just being sick as a dog, and a bunch of players just being miserable. And so we really weren't in the right mind on that entire trip. Knight had us stay, on the North Shore, which was on the opposite side of where the tournament was played, because we didn't play in Maui then. It was actually played in Honolulu, I believe. And it was like a 50-minute bus ride, 60-minute around the island to get to the arena to practice and play. We all were miserable. We were isolated out. Nobody was feeling good. We all were just laying in our hotel beds, just dying to get through it. And we got by Rutgers. And I think at that time we were ranked, like 15th in the country. We were 7-3. And then we faced Clemson, who had the original Larry Nance, who was a great basketball player. Ended up being the number one pick for the Phoenix Suns the year I was drafted 8th in the same round. I got to go against him in practice. And they, we lose to them by 1 point. And that's when Knight just broke loose. He just got the whole thing just fell apart there. So by the time we get to Pan America, the third game of that tournament, we're all like just wanting to get the hell out of there. I swear to God, and when we lose to Pan America, I guess 66-60 was the score of the game. And I did not even know that Hawaii had beaches, other than the fact that, we could stare out at the Kuilima Hyatt Resort, which is the North Shore Hilton now. And it was in the winter, so they had the big waves coming in, and the waves, the hotel's built in such a way that the hotel will withstand the waves. The waves will actually crash onto the hotel at some point. So the hotel's rattling, shaking around. Some Oriental person passes away trying to do the surf and dies. It was just a configuration of a big mess, the whole thing. And literally, we got done with the game. We never went back to the hotel. Knight sent the managers back to pack our bags for us and put all of our clothes in whatever bags we had in our rooms. And we didn't get our watches till like a year later. It came to us in the mail, because you got at that time you got like a nice Rainbow Classic watch or something like that as a gift for playing in the tournament. We didn't get those. We went to the airport and sat at the airport, and we couldn't get a flight out for like 8 hours. It was like it was a total disaster, and just an amazingly bad experience. But when you look back on it, it was so funny. So he's trying to charter a plane. He's trying to get us back to the mainland so our plane can come and pick us up in California somewhere. I think we eventually get back to like San Francisco or something like that. And then a couple of players get in trouble. We get our plane there, and we pick us up, and Knight gets pissed off at a couple of players that I'm not going to mention, and makes them fly home commercial. So on the way back, we get stuck in Iowa because there's a bad storm, and we have to land on New Year's Eve in Iowa and spend the night. And there's only like 2 hotel rooms, so you got the whole team.
So did you get to watch the ball drop in Des Moines? No.
I don't even remember what we did. I don't remember what we did. It was that bad. All I know is that it was just, but the 2 guys that got sent home on a commercial flight got home, got to Bloomington, got back to Indianapolis, and got back to Bloomington. Our pilots wouldn't fly because the weather was so bad. And we literally spent the New Year's Eve that year in Iowa City because that's as far as they could take the plane. And then the next morning we get up, and it was – what started off is, I think we were ranked, going into the season, ranked number 4, number 5, somewhere right in there. And it just went downhill from there. And we got back to Bloomington, and that was the end of that trip. And I went back 3 years later, and I married my wife in Maui. My wife and I decided, let's go back to Hawaii and get this thing right, so I've got a good memory of Hawaii. So in 1984, I married my wife 35 years ago in Maui on Kaanapali Beach. And that's that story of that whole trip. It was a disaster.
All right.
But it started off with all getting sick. was where it all kind of came. It fell apart.
Well, and then you guys win a couple Big Ten games. You haven't lost to Michigan, which was a close game. Michigan was top 10. But I know you've talked about the Iowa game at Assembly Hall, where Iowa, who was ranked 14th in the country, beat you guys 56-53. Was that where the change came, or was it later?
No,
the game at Iowa?
It was the second game at Iowa.
Okay.
At that point, we were 10-7 at that point. We were floundering, and here's why we were floundering. And this is a story I've told many times. I've tried to tell on this show or on our show many times. Bob Knight and Isaiah Thomas were absolutely wrestling for control of this basketball team. I think Isaiah was such a basketball genius, and we still consider him a basketball genius, that he needed to have control of this team to be able to do the things he wanted us to do. And we had the equipment or talent, I say equipment's talent, to be able to do what he wanted us to do. But Knight was unwilling to relinquish control. He was still fairly young in his career. He'd only won one championship at that point in time. So every day in practice, there would be an argument outside the locker room between Knight and Isaiah. Isaiah wouldn't back down. I mean, he literally would just say, you got to do it this way or we don't do it. And Knight would say, no, it's my team. We'll do it this way. And we were all sitting in the locker room going, what the hell? We all love Isaiah. Zeke is our buddy. He's our teammate. We enjoy playing with him. He's a great player. But Knight's our coach. So we're all struggling with who do we follow? Who do we get behind? Do we get behind Knight or do we get behind Isaiah? And so for that middle part of the Big Ten season, there was this constant battle between those two on the bus, on the plane. Isaiah would go up and sit with Knight, and they would talk, and we could hear him. I'm just back in the back. I took the farthest seat I could ever get away from Knight and sat back there and listened to it all because I wanted no part of this discussion. But there was this constant battle going on between those two to gain control of this basketball team. So for the middle part of the Big Ten, while we were able to win some games, but we lost some games, and Iowa was strong that year. I think they had Kevin Boyle. They had several good players on that team. Who was the guard that ended up playing at
Ronnie Lester?
Mayfield. They had Ronnie Lester, Mayfield. They had a very strong basketball team, and they were very good. So, but we lose there, and then we come back and win 4 games in a row. And we kind of get things back on the right track. And then, we go to Purdue that year. And in my entire 4 years of playing at IU, I never won at Mackey Arena. We never won there. Not one team that I ever played on won a game at Mackey Arena. And Purdue never won a game at Assembly Hall. That's how strong that rivalry was at that point in time. So, but we're floundering because it's this whole battle between Knight and Isaiah. And, Whitman's kind of a quiet guy. Kitchell is just a Kitchell. Ray and Landon are just happy-go-lucky guys. Just want to go out and dunk basketballs and have fun. And, I'm scared shitless. Jimmy Thomas is kind of a real quiet guy. And so we're just sitting there floundering. And that's how that middle part of that season went.
Yeah, but then Knight finally relinquished control to Thomas then?
Well, that happened at Iowa. And the game I'm looking at now, the game was, on February 19th. It's the last game I ever lost as a Hoosier. We went there, and we were now back in hunt. We finally got ranked again because we lost our ranking after Pan America, deservedly so. And we were sitting at 9-4 in the Big Ten. We were in decent shape, but we go out there and they basically drill us again. And we come into the locker room after the game, and what had happened was, I'm looking at the score. The score was 78-65, so it wasn't really even. I don't think the game was that close, truthfully. But if you remember, in 1976, there was a deal that happened where anytime IU held an opponent under 50 points, McDonald's would give you a free hamburger, fries, and Coke if you had your ticket stub.
Yeah.
In Bloomington. Well, Knight allegedly, apparently, put the starters back in at the end of a game against Iowa in 76 and ended up holding Iowa to 49 points. So there was the pictures, there's all these pictures out there you can find on the internet of Iowa, of the fans in long lines at the McDonald's on College Avenue, sitting there waiting to get their free hamburger, fries, and Coke. Well, we're getting drilled, and I'm on the bench, and toward the end of the game, here comes out of the stands comes a barrage of McDonald's hamburgers. It starts flying down toward our bench. And that didn't go well. That didn't sit well at all. So we go in the locker room, and literally coach virtually causes a urinal to start leaking. I don't know. He didn't entirely rip it off the wall, but he just started yanking on it and ripping on it. It started leaking water everywhere, everything. And it was a horrible plane ride home. And so we lost that game. And
yeah, and then you guys didn't lose a game again.
No.
My question for you is this. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. We go to practice the next morning, and it's practice at 8 o'clock. Now, we didn't get over from Iowa until like 1 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock. So we're all in there. We're all getting taped. We're all getting Vaselined up. Mike, as we talked about yesterday on the IU show, because we know it's going to be a brutal practice. And here's what happened. And here's the transformation. And this is what catapults us into where we ended up. We're all waiting like heck for, it's going to be a brutal practice. We all know we're going to get killed. And Knight comes out and gets on the huddle, puts the center court, and says, "Come here, guys." And this is where he used the famous line from Connie Chung, which I'm not going to repeat because I don't want to offend anybody, but you know what the line is. And then he goes to the scorer's table and sits down, and Isaiah takes over the basketball team. And we never lost again. We gelled instantly. All we needed to do was stop the configuration between those two and the conflict between those two. And he literally, the greatest coaching move he made that year was to stop coaching. Now, he coached the games, and he did all what his responsibilities were, but he gave in to Isaiah and said, "Okay, Isaiah, take this team over. Go run it." And we all know about Isaiah Thomas. I mean, Mike, you call him maybe the best point guard ever played the game, along with Magic Johnson.
He's top three at least.
Top three at least. And he took over the team, and we didn't get touched the rest of the year. I mean, it was – and the confidence level was almost instantaneous. Everybody, shots were going into practice. Practice stats were jumping through the roof. People were playing harder. We were running and gunning more. We were doing things. Kitchell was taking better shots. I was blocking out better. It just changed. It morphed instantly when he said that to us in that huddle and went and sat down and said, "Go. These guys go have at it. Let's go have fun."
So let me ask you this. March 8th, 1981, Selection Sunday. Did Coach Knight buy a bunch of pizzas for you guys and you sat around the TV and watched the selection show?
No, not at all. I don't even know if there was a selection show. Was there?
I think there was a selection show back then.
Was there a selection? I don't even know. No, we were together. I think I was probably with my girlfriend in my apartment. And I got a phone call and said, "Hey, practice is at 8 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to play, and we're going to Dayton. We're going to play Maryland." I was pissed off.
But this is the thing that I want to ask you, because that Maryland team was really good. They were the 6th seed. You guys were the 3rd seed. I think you played them on Saturday in Dayton, but they played a play-in game on a Thursday night against UT Chattanooga, who they beat by like 10 or 12 points. When did you guys get to Dayton? Did you guys get there in time to watch Maryland Chattanooga on Thursday, or did you guys just come in the day before the game?
As I recall, we came in the day before the game. Night was never real big, and I can't remember if we flew or bussed in. Actually, I can't remember if we even flew or bussed. That's really funny. I can't remember if we took the plane or if we just busted up 37 to 70 and went over to Dayton. I don't remember.
I would assume you'd have busted.
Yeah, I would assume we probably would have too. But no, we got there the day before. And here's the funny story with that for me. My best friend, who in high school went to Wittenberg University, which is in Springfield, Ohio, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, we're going to play Maryland. They got Buck Williams. They got Albert King. They got Lefty Driesell. That's a great basketball team. I packed for spring break. I literally was going to leave after we lost and get in a car, get my friend tickets to the game. I gave him my tickets. And I was literally going to get in the car with him and just head down to Florida for spring, because I had never been on spring break. You're always practicing during spring break. So I had never done a spring break. So I had bathing suits, I had Hawaiian shirts, T-shirts, and everything in my bag at Maryland, and then we come out and play what is probably
real quick. I have a
basketball.
question. We talked about that.
Right.
You guys were on the winning streak. The regional semifinals and regional finals were going to be at Assembly Hall. Was there any talk that if we just get through this game, we've got a really good shot?
Well, and I'll get to that point about how we perceived each game. But what we didn't perceive was how well we played that day. That was probably the most perfect basketball game I'd ever been a part of, was playing against Maryland. Usually a team hits on 4 to 6 cylinders. I say 6 cylinders. 4 to 6 players are playing good. And that day, everybody that went in the game made great contributions. We were hitting on 12 cylinders. And Maryland just had nothing. We drilled them. What was the score? What was the score? 90.
Oh, it was like 99 to 63 or something.
64. Yeah, 99-64.
Yeah.
I mean, they were never in the game. They were never in the game. Isaiah, we just played the perfect basketball game, and everybody complimented Isaiah. Everybody was in the right spot. We caught all of his passes. We made all the shots. And anybody that came in made major contributions. And so, but then what we don't know what's going on too at that same period of time is the rash of upsets that's happening.
Yeah, you did. Hold on a second, because I wanted to ask you about this, because in Dayton, before you guys took the court, you had St. Joseph's beat DePaul. I mean,
right?
Did you guys really understand the breadth of that, what you were coming into, and the crowd?
No.
I mean, yeah, because John Smith hits that shot. That's maybe the greatest upset in college basketball history, because that DePaul team came into there ranked number one and looked untouchable.
Yeah, and I remember actually Aguirre and Isaiah hugging each other as Aguirre was coming off the court, because they were best friends.
Yeah.
Mark Aguirre and they were great friends. And as we were walking out, they were walking in, and I know that they had words, kind words, not negative words.
Yeah.
But then that's also when Danny Ainge drives the length of the floor on, was it Notre Dame, I think?
Well, that would have been the regional semifinal, the Thursday night the next week. The other upset I think you're thinking about is
Kentucky.
If you guys were going to beat Maryland, you would have played Kentucky at Indiana. Kentucky was the 2 seed. You were the 3 seed. UAB upsets them 69 to 62. So right there, you eliminated the top 2 seeds.
And then I think the third team in that wasn't Wake Forest. As I recall, Wake Forest had a strong team that year. Am I calling that right?
Wake Forest was the 4 seed. Boston College beat them by 3 points. The interesting thing here is you got an Indiana connection, because Boston College almost lost to Ball State in the first round, and Ball State, I think, had a guy who was Mr. Basketball, Dan Palabizio. I think it was from Michigan City Rogers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you could have easily had Ball State playing Indiana in the Elite Eight. But you guys come back to Indiana, though, so what's the feeling? You're playing UAB now on your home court. In the top bracket, St. Joe's and Boston College, who were the 5 and 9 seeds.
And here's the funny comment: is I don't ever recall ever thinking we were going to win the tournament, but I don't ever recall thinking we were ever going to lose. We never thought about losing. We never thought about winning. We just thought about the next opponent and who we had to play next. And we looked at it and said, okay, we're back at Assembly Hall. We're sleeping in our beds. We're eating dinner with our families or girlfriends or whatever's going on, and we're playing at home, and all of a sudden now it's Boston College, St. Joe's, and UAB. And UAB, what were they ranked that year? I mean,
they weren't ranked because they had to play a play-in game. That was a program that Gene Bartow had taken over. I think didn't start.
UCLA.
I think that program just started like 2 or 3 years before that. And the interesting thing about that is they play at 81 in the Sweet 16 against you guys. In 82, they beat Indiana in the second round and actually advanced all the way to the Elite Eight. So Gene Bartow had them as a top 20 program for the vast majority of probably the first half of the decade.
Yeah, and they had was Larry Smith, was that the kid's name? Larry Smith, that was a good player they had on that team. Trying to recall if that's it. I don't have my notes right in front of me on
Great
that.
rebounder, Larry Smith.
Larry Smith.
Yeah,
I think it's the same guy that he played. I mean, they were strong. We didn't know that we could get by at that point, we're still not sure. We're not thinking about winning a tournament at that point. We love the fact we're playing at home. We love the fact we got upsets. And, here's a team that we're supposed to have, I think, Notre Dame, Kentucky, Wake Forest, us, if we got there. And we ended up with St. Joseph's, Boston College, and UAB. And it's like, oh, my gosh, this could actually happen. So we kind of breezed through that tournament. And I think that's actually probably the last year they ever let
the last year they let anybody do that was 1984. And the reason it stopped is because 1984 they played it at Rupp Arena. Kentucky played Illinois in maybe the worst officiated game in the history of officiated games. And Kentucky beat Illinois by like 1 point. But Kentucky shot like 35 free throws and Illinois shot 6. And it was an absolute joke. But the great thing about that, since, of course, we all know, I completely hate the Kentucky Wildcats, was then they went to the Final Four and played Georgetown, and Georgetown held them to like 7% shooting in the second half and beat them down the way Kentucky Wildcats need to be beaten. But go ahead, Steve. And the best player on that team was Oliver Robertson. He played in the NBA.
For UAB?
Yeah, and Chris Giles.
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation before, and I couldn't remember him then either. But
Yeah. I actually have the actual notes and the scouting reports. I've got my notebook. The Knight made us each keep a notebook every year. We had a notebook and we took notes on every practice. And we actually had a class during practice, and we actually took notes. So I've got those around here somewhere.
Well, and the interesting thing is this. That 81 tournament, especially your region, one of the most upsets you've ever seen in any tournament. But when you get to the Final Four, you guys are the low man on the totem pole because you had Virginia, who was a 1 seed. North Carolina was a 2 seed. You guys were a 3. LSU was a 1. And Virginia played North Carolina in the first semifinal. North Carolina whooped their ass because Ralph Sampson had a problem with NCAA tournament games. And then you guys come out and play LSU and Dale Brown. And I know, was Knight not a big fan of Dale Brown in 1981 even, or was that just later?
Yeah. Probably some of the most disparaging comments I ever heard him make was about Dale Brown in practice. He was not a fan of Dale Brown. And we were staying in a hotel, actually in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is just across the border from Philadelphia. And that was the home base. It ended up being the home base hotel for LSU. So every time we would walk through the hotel lobby or whatever, we would hear this tiger bait, tiger bait, tiger bait, tiger bait, tiger bait. And Knight got pissed off, and it was the legend and lore that he dumped somebody in the trash can. He just kind of pushed the guy aside. The guy was drunk off his ass and fell back in the trash can. And we all saw it happen, and we went on, and there was a big hoopla about that. But he was not a fan of Dale Brown. He thought that Dale Brown cheated. But they had Dwayne Scales, Rudy Macklin, 2 great players at that time, and they had a really good point guard. His name is escaping me right now.
We'll see. They had Macklin. I think they had Howard Carter and Ethan Martin. Ethan Martin was the dude that was really good, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was their guard.
Did he get hurt in that game, or did he play the whole game?
I don't, I'm 60 years old.
Gosh, I'm 50. I don't remember. That's why I'm asking you. Maybe we should start asking people that are younger.
Yeah. Let's see. Ask Bobby. He's young enough.
Bobby's the same age as me, Steve, so we're still screwed. The thing about that game was LSU came out and outplayed you guys in the first half. Had, I think, if I remember right, like a double-digit lead early in that game. You guys cut it to 30-27, but that second half, you guys came out and dominated him, outscored him like 40-20 or 40-19. Isaiah Thomas played out of his mind in that game.
Well, but see that was the thing about our team is that we all knew we had Isaiah, and Isaiah had this innate ability, kind of like Bird and Johnson, to just turn it up 3 notches, and they could just dial it up and elevate their game so quickly. And the great thing about what Knight had taught us all to do is how to respond to that and to get in sync with him. And there was such a bond between all the guys on our team. We hung out together. We did things off the court together. We did whatever we needed to do. And we stayed together as a group. We ate together a lot as a group. We went to the study table together as a group. So there was this bond that we trusted each other. And Isaiah just had this incredible ability just say, okay, game's mine. Here we go. I'm taking it over. And we let him take it over. And Whitman would be there for the shot. Ketchel would be in the spot. Tolbert, Turner, and myself or Jimmy Thomas would be inside playing defense or blocking out. And, it was pretty much a 7-man rotation. It was pretty much Jimmy Thomas and I off the bench.
In that game, though, they let everybody play. And I wanted to bring this up. Chuck Franz scored 2 points in the game. You scored 1.
There you go.
But he just made
it wasn't my job. It wasn't my job to score. I was not a scorer.
It wasn't Chuck Franz's either. It was Chuck Franz's to go get everybody else water, wasn't it? I'm
not going to say anything disparaging about Chuck Franz. He's a teammate. You're not going to hear me say anything disparaging about Chuck Franz.
So the thing that stood out to me about that team, especially in the tournament, Landon Turner was a guy who was inconsistent through most of his career at IU. But he played really well in that Final Four. I mean, he scored 20 points against LSU. He played good in the championship game. What do you think was the big turnaround for Landon, or was it just Isaiah forcing everybody to be that way?
No, I know Knight's love affair with the 76 team and how he feels about Quinn and Scotty and Abbers and those guys. And Cruzy was one of our assistant coaches. How he feels about those guys. The next love affair after that was probably with Landon. And Knight worked his rear end off to make Landon a great player. And Landon was just kind of maybe like me, a little bit like an idiot, in a sense that he couldn't grasp it all. But for some reason, at the right time, in the right place, at the right moment, Landon kicked in. And he was the most valuable player, aside from Isaiah. You take Isaiah out of the equation, Landon was the reason that we won this tournament. He just gelled. He individually gelled, and I would say it was Knight. It was a relationship between Knight and Isaiah, because Knight would come to me and say, beat up Landon as much as you possibly can. Or, just punk him as much as you can, get him to swing at you. He wouldn't say get him to swing at me, but he would, like, get him angry, get him mad, get him focused. And so we would all work on that. But Knight's greatest individual project, I think, is Landon Turner. And I think that's why Landon and Knight still have an incredible relationship and why Landon is still so beloved at IU. It was just – it just gelled at the right time. And he came into the tournament, and he started playing out of his mind. And that took the pressure off Ray. That allowed Ted to stand there and do nothing but what he does good and shoot. It made me feel like I only needed to score 5 points to help Isaiah with his 21 in the championship game. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So, you guys beat LSU. Virginia, North Carolina played after that. What was it like preparation-wise under Coach Knight going into that championship game? I mean, was there anything done on Saturday night? What happened on Sunday into Monday during the day? We'll get into the Reagan assassination attempt too, but just kind of walk us through after the game and Sunday and how Coach Knight prepared for that championship game.
Normal. I mean, same preparation. We didn't do anything out of normal. I mean, we watched film of North Carolina. We did walkthroughs. There wasn't a lot of physical activity going on at that point in time. We stayed in the hotel. We didn't go out and do a lot of things. We took walks as a team. And got outside, got some fresh air, but nothing out of the usual. Like I said, as I give these talks over the period of time, I never thought about losing, and I never thought about winning the championship. It just was like we were focused on the next game in front of us. So we watched film. We knew we were going to face Perkins, Worthy, and Al Wood, 3 All-Americans. They had Pepper and Black. They had Matt Doherty, who ended up being a coach there for a while. They had a great squad. They had Dean Smith. We knew what we were up against. But it's just like it's another game we got to go win. And Knight was just so focused on, if we do these simple fundamental things, we're going to win this game. And he kept us focused on that. So it was quiet. Nothing different than what we did all season long.
All right. So the next day, though, you had a little bit something different happen than any other championship game did, where you had the assassination attempt on the president. Where were you when you heard that happened? And was there any concern that you guys may not play the game?
Well, this is funny. I was rooming with Isaiah on this trip, and we were all in our room watching. I thought we were watching Young and the Restless, but Isaiah says we were watching Days of Our Lives.
Oh, God.
We were watching
why don't either one of you just say you were taking naps?
Time.
Jeez.
Yeah, well, we had everybody on our beds. So we had twin beds in each room. We were all sitting around, and here comes a special bulletin. I said, before it came on, I said, watch, Reagan's been shot. And this story's actually appeared in Sports Illustrated, where I blurted out, and Isaiah's corroborated the story too. It's like, watch, the president's been shot, and we're all screwed. And sure enough, it comes on, President Reagan has been shot, and everybody went nuts. Of course, now we were all concerned. But what happened immediately after that, of course, the Oscars were that night too, because they used to show the Oscars.
Yeah,
on
I think
Monday
they
night.
canceled the Oscars, didn't they?
They canceled the Oscars. The Oscars got canceled. Yeah, they canceled the Oscars. But night immediately, we got a phone call, and the managers came in and said, grab your gear, come on, we're going. And Knight took us to a high school in Cherry Hills, New Jersey, and set up cots for us or whatever so we could rest, and we just kind of walked through stuff. And he kept us entirely away from the media. We had no idea what was going on, how bad it was. And all we knew was he wanted to keep us focused on getting ready to play the game and preparing to play North Carolina that night. And we literally were expunged from any TV, no television sets around or anything like that. So we had no news. They weren't giving us the information. And we were just focused on playing the game. So if we were going to play, we were prepared. And nobody even asked, are we going to play or not? Now we get to the Spectrum, and we find out that the decision is made like 30 minutes before the game that they are going to go ahead and play the game because Reagan had come out of surgery and was okay. And, it wasn't as serious as everybody thought. He was fine. He was recovering. So NBC decides to go ahead, and the NCAA decides to go ahead and play the game. So we were so well prepared at that time. And I think that's ultimately what won us the championship was that I don't know what North Carolina did, but I doubt they did what Knight did. I doubt they did what we did. But he took us totally away from the media. So we didn't sit on TV all day watching all the reports that were going on about, the president's in surgery, Jim Brady's badly hurt, everything that's going on at that time frame. Hinckley has been captured. We heard none of that. He just said, stay focused on playing basketball. If we don't play, we don't play. And he didn't say that. That's the mentality we took that game. So when we tipped off, as usual, again, we got off to a slow start. We were not a fast starting team, kind of like this year's version. But like I said, when Isaiah started to dial it up, as he did in the second half of that game, it was over and done with.
Yeah, and the big point, we talked about this the other night, just off air, was Randy Whitman on the baseline with the shot at the buzzer that put Indiana up 27-26. The game was pretty much over from then because the concern you had to have was if you stay behind North Carolina, you never know where they're going to drop the four corners on you, and you got to chase that crap all night.
Right, and again, they had three All-Americans in their backcourt, in their front court. I mean, they had Worthy, Perkins, and Al Wood. And it's like you can't get down these guys. But Randy's jump shot was probably the most important shot that was hit all season long. When you boil it down to right now, that we went in the locker room just on a high because we had battled back and gotten the lead. Knight came to the locker room in a positive mode. Here's what we got to do the second half, and it lit Isaiah up. It didn't light him up and yelling at him; it just lit him up like, okay, we're going to get this. And Isaiah's indomitable will to not lose and will to win just took it over. And he came out, I think he had to score, the first 5 or 6 points in the second half.
Yeah, I know for the game he scored 23, and it wasn't just that. It seemed like every pass he threw turned into a basket. And the thing that stands out to me is this. You had Ray Tolbert only scored 5 points in a game, played all 40 minutes, shot 1 for 4, 3 for 6 on the free throw line. Did not have his best game. Landon played all right, but this was basically Isaiah and Whitman who played exceedingly well. And then yourself and Jim Thomas, I think you guys combined for 8 rebounds off the bench. But Jimmy, also, the thing that really stands out here is he had more assists than Isaiah. He had 8 assists. He had a steal. He had 4 turnovers, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But Jimmy Thomas was huge off the bench, and I think he, put up the numbers helped put up the numbers Ray would have put up. And you step in, you score 5 points there. So, I mean, what was the prevailing opinion when the game was over? Was it excitement because you were a national champion, or relief because it was over?
No, it was excitement because we weren't like the 76 team. I mean, the 76 team was more.
Yeah, the 76 team I would think would be relief, because everybody, they were expected to do that. You guys were expected to probably lose in the Sweet 16 to Kentucky.
Yeah, we weren't expecting to get out of Bloomington. I think at that point in time because we were, going to be one of the lowest seeds coming in. But yeah, no, it was just it's like, oh my God, we actually did this. We have a watch, we're getting a ring, and we're national champions. And it was not like the 76 where those guys just plowed through and they just wanted to get it over with and get it done. I don't know what nice demeanor was in 76 because I wasn't in the locker room with those guys then. 81, the more we started to progress, the more involved Knight got as a coach, but the more he let Isaiah run the team on the court. And that was great. So it was, we got back, and again, all of our stuff was already packed up, and the managers just grabbed our luggage. We never went back to the hotel. We literally, those of us that hung together, just got in a cab somewhere, and we just toured as much of Philadelphia as we could. And Knight just said, hey, plane leaves at 6:30 a.m., be on the plane, and remember who you're representing. You're representing Indiana, so act respectable. And we all got on the plane, and the plane smelled like a brewery at 6:30 in the morning. And Knight was just shaking his head. The interesting part about that was that Ted Kitchell got into foul trouble, I think, about 5 minutes into the game. I think he picked up his 3rd foul. And he never went back into the game, which surprised me. Knight at that point just relied on, Jimmy and myself to be the subs, one of the two of us going in, and Jimmy and I split time. I think he played probably a little bit more than I did. I think Jimmy started the second half.
Yeah, I think Jimmy played
he was on the alternate
in the 20s, I think, and you were probably around 13, 14.
14 minutes, yeah. But it's based on what our needs were defensively or offensively, it was either Jimmy or I. And Ted never, after the first 5 minutes, never got back into the game. And then when Landon fouled out, I think with about 5 minutes to go, I came in. And so it was Jimmy and myself and Ray and Randy and
well, I would like to tell you this, though.
Isaiah.
In your defense, Steve, when we look at this, you played 13 minutes, you scored 5 points. If you would have played the entire game, you would have scored 15 or 16 points.
There you go.
At that
but it doesn't matter.
But
I got a ring. So
all right.
I don't care.
No, I was just saying that the 13 minutes you played in, you scored 5 points. It had an effect on the game. I mean, because I know that your first bucket, I think it was right after you came in the game. You got a rebound, put it up, scored, and I remember my dad saying, hey, Steve Risley's still at IU? No, I'm kidding. But, all right, that was great stuff, Steve, talking about 1981. Bobby, I can tell you this, our 3-team parlay is now a 2-team. The Reds have been postponed. I think that means they're going to play it tomorrow. So, all right, guys.
Bad weather? Are you still having bad weather in Indiana?
Oh, yeah, it's raining constantly.
Let me tell you what it is out here.
It's 75 and
Bobby,
sunny.
Have you hit 80 yet, Bobby?
I haven't been outside yet, Steve, but it sure looks nice out there.
Yeah, it's supposed to hit 85 by tomorrow. So, Mike, sorry.
My God.
Why are you sorry? I love it when it rains all day here because that means I don't have to do anything outside. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Me and Bobby will be back on Monday at between 2 and 3 o'clock. Me and Steve will be back for Survive in Advance Monday with Brian Ralph from Fanside and Busting Brackets to recap the NCAA tournament so far and to look ahead at next week's Final Four in Minneapolis. I want to remind everybody, MyBookie.Ag, click the banner at the top of thegruellytruth.net, get up to a $1,000 cash bonus on 50% of whatever you put in. Go to the Sheridan Report at Sheridan Report on Twitter or the SheridanReport.com on the internet to buy the Sheridan Report, $10 a day or $50 for the entire month. Bobby, anything else you want to say since it's been like 40 minutes since we've heard from you?
No, I just want to thank Steve. You know, I of course talk to Steve all the time, but I don't take, you know, for granted the 20 minutes, the 30 minutes he just gave, because that is so special to listen to from him. And he was there on that court and did that. He did that, and you can't take that away from him ever. And that ring is so cool. And to hear some of those stories that I had never heard, it's great, Steve. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think that every team that's won a championship has the same stories. They all have special moments for any team that makes that journey. And again, in closing, I'd say for us, when I look back on it, what I remember most is the journey. The destination just came.
Yeah.
We ended up at the destination, but it was the journey. What was the moments, and I always want to tell people that when I give lectures or talks on it. The journey was so incredible, but I think every team that wins it, whoever wins it this year, is going to have stories about the journey, and that's what you capture, and that's what you memorize and you remember in your mind. Is the journey of doing it. You don't think about it. You don't want to put yourself in an audacious point where you think you're going to win it. You know, you just want to say, I got to, as we say, Mike, on our show, survive in advance.
Well, I'll tell you, I would love
survive in advance
to be able to get John Smith on, the guy that hit the shot against DePaul and took St. Joe's to the Elite Eight, because I bet he's got some pretty good stories too. And that's the great thing about March Madness. Whether you just win one game or you win the national championship, it's about the journey you had that entire year. It's not about the destination and where you ended up. But your destination ended up better than most.
Mike, you might call it one shining moment.
That is a good idea for a song. So, Bobby, you're in charge of writing a song that's called One Shining Moment that puts all this into a neat little package and puts a little bow around it.
It truly is about one shining moment. And
all right, guys.
I think that's the song that they have at the end of the.
It is,
at
Bobby.
The end of the highlight.
Why? It was a joke, Bobby. Come on, Bobby. Get with the program. Jeez.
Oh, shit. It's been too
hey,
long,
Bobby,
go.
Today, what I want you to do.
See you guys later.
What I want you to do, Bobby, is today, I want you to go find Mark Few, walk up to him, and give him your idea for a song to close out the NCAA tournament called One Shining Moment.
One shining moment.
Well, hey,
have fun,
Mark
Bobby.
Won't be around. I'll go to Coach Beard. I'll go to a night disciple.
Yeah, who's going to go to the Final Four the way I predicted, into the national championship game the way I predicted, and win the national championship. All right, guys.
Hey, Bobby.
All right.
Wait, Bobby, one last thing. Tiger is lighting it up in this match play tournament. He beat Rory in the morning, he's 2 up right now.
Yep.
After 5 holes, he's lighting it up in the golf tournament. Are you betting on him?
Yep, had him over McIlroy in this round of 16, and I didn't get on him in this next round. I didn't see the line in time, but
guys,
had him this morning over McIlroy.
We got to wrap this up.
Go.
I got to go see if the Mets can take this home for us. All right, guys. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Steve Risley, Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.